Hello and welcome to our careers webinar today, and the topic of which is overcoming career doubt and building self-confidence. My name is Karen Lanigan. I'm Head of Member Experience here with Chartered Accountants Ireland, and also I suppose responsible for the career coaching and careers advisory service that we offer to all our members. And I've been doing that for many years now, and I do also come from a strong careers advisory and recruitment background, as well as being a qualified coach. So I'm delighted to be here with you today. And to basically take you through this all-important topic of dealing with career doubt and then building self-confidence. So what we're going to touch on today essentially is how you can overcome your self-doubt and build your self-confidence, how you can deal with something that's called impostor syndrome. I'm going to explain that. Many of you may have heard of it already, but it'd be good for us just to have a look at that and thinking about how you can adopt and change your mindset to make sure that that does help you in terms of building your self-confidence, and also then showing you ways in which you can leverage your past achievements and accomplishments to build your future career success. And also we'll touch upon how you can set and achieve realistic and motivating goals. As well as that, then I'll take you through some of the supports and services available to you as a member of the Institute. So essentially, by the end of the session today, you should have a better sense of what being confident is all about, what it looks like, what the benefits are to you of improving your self-confidence, having a general sense of your own confidence and how the lack of that might be holding you back, and then how you can put strategies in place that will help you to build your confidence and ultimately improve your career success. So it's all about, kind of practical strategies to help you to eliminate career doubt and improve your confidence. And as I mentioned then as well, to basically take you through some of the supports that are available to you as a member. So getting started then. So essentially we're saying is that, a lack of self-confidence can very much be a career blocker. And there's absolutely no doubt about that your career success can be impeded by lack of self-confidence, and also by lack of just that sense of being able to do what it is you're setting out to do. And this has been shown in studies where it's shown that 70% of people are regularly impacted by feelings of low self-confidence. So the first thing to say to you, and to the over 200 members who registered for this webinar today, you are not alone. This is a very common feeling. It is a very common experience. I can guarantee you that I've spoken to members at all levels, CEO in the C-suite, managing partners, managing directors, very senior executives, and they too have experienced these feelings of low self-confidence. So it impacts us all, myself included, and it can be a real struggle for people. But the good news here is that there are ways and strategies that you can implement to build and maintain your self-confidence. So that's the overriding two messages here, is that, look, you're not alone. As studies show, 70% of people regularly are impacted by low confidence and self-esteem, but there are strategies, that you can implement to help you to deal with it. So if we look firstly at what is self-confidence. So essentially it is the belief in yourself to accomplish any task, no matter the odds, no matter the difficulty, and no matter the adversity. So it's really having that sense of, that positive view of yourself and your potential, and that you trust in yourself and your skills, your knowledge, and your ability, and that you have this inbuilt positive attitude about your skills and your abilities. And it means that you can trust and accept yourself, and you have a sense of control in relation to your ability to achieve things, both in a professional context, but indeed in a personal perspective as well, so that you have this overall belief and confidence that you can go ahead and achieve what it is you want to achieve, and that you have that mindset that will facilitate you doing that. So generally speaking, then there are three types of self-confidence. One is task specific. So as accountants, like you'd be very familiar with that in terms of having the confidence and the ability to perform your specific role, or you have specific skills to cover off, whether that's financial reporting, management accounts analysis, but you have confidence in your own specific I suppose, abilities and technical abilities for a lot of you. But obviously, as well, I suppose, as you move up the chain to more kind of senior roles, it would include your ability to lead, to manage teams, etc. So then there's your general self confidence, which is how you feel about yourself in general and your capabilities, not just in terms of specific tasks, but in life overall. And then more specifically, you have the situational confidence, so that, I suppose our confidence can vary depending on the situations we find ourselves in. And you might have certain situations where, you're very confident in dealing with certain situations, but there may be others then where you're not as strong. So for example, you might feel really strong in terms of that month end process and say, look, yeah, I have that covered off and that boxed off. But actually then when it comes to maybe say presenting those numbers to say the management team, that might be a slightly different scenario that you might not feel quite as confident in that situation. So just wanted to give you a sense of the different types of self-confidence so you can understand them, and it helps you to kind of identify where you're strong in terms of confidence, whether, and where the gaps might be that you might say, well, actually, it's more situational confidence that I need to build up. And that then will help you to kind of zone in and target, the specific requirements that you might have from a skills development perspective there. So just to kind of take you through what a lack of self-confidence can look like. And when I've talked to people about this before, they're often quite surprised at, what it might look like, because some people will say, yeah, look, the negative self-talk, I get that. Like, I'm constantly putting myself down. Procrastination, where you're not making decisions, you're slow to make decisions. That isn't often something that's associated with confidence, but actually, in fact, it is, because you're not confident to make a decision where you're saying, will I do this? Won't I? Whereas if you're confident in your abilities, you're saying, yes, look, I'm making this decision and I'm going with it. So it's really important to kind of understand that. Imposter syndrome is another symptom of self-confidence, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail shortly. Comparing yourself to others and constantly looking to see how you're rating relative to others, and maybe thinking, gosh, I'm not doing as well as John or Mary, and looking at that and constantly comparing yourself to others. Also maybe where you have the opportunity to put yourself forward, but you don't do that because you think, God, I can't do that job, or I'm not good enough. Mary there is going to be better at this job than I am. Another more obvious one, obviously, is kind of speaking up in meetings, or in certain situations, and not having the confidence to do that. Others then that maybe not so obvious would be like needing validation from others all of the time, or being a people pleaser, that you're not you don't have the capability or the self-confidence to stand up to people, and that you're kind of going with the flow because of that. Or another one, which might not be quite so obvious to people, is that need to constantly double check your work, and making changes because you're kind of going, is that right, or should I be doing it this way? So it's really important that you're aware that procrastination and constantly scrutinizing your work and comparing yourself to others are symptoms, or is what self-confidence can look like in you and others. And don't forget, you can help your team members or people who are reporting into you as well. If you're identifying these characteristics in them, that it will help you then as a leader to support them to develop in their roles, and to develop their confidence. So I mentioned imposter syndrome, and I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of it already, but basically to explain it's that internal psychological experience that you feel you're not good enough. You feel you're a phony, even though it's clear to everybody around you that you are successful, and everybody around you sees that, but you don't see it yourself. Even though everybody else and the, I suppose, kind of history shows, and it's obvious that you have done, you're doing well, you're successful, but your inward feelings and your own psychological experiences that, look, no, like this, I'm going to be caught out. I don't deserve to be here. Somebody else is better than me. How long is it going to be before, like, they realize I'm not good at this job? So it's just that constant feeling of, I don't deserve to be here. I'm not good enough to do this job, and I'm going to be found out. And so many people have that. And some of the characteristics we talked about earlier, that perfectionism and paralysis and not being able to make decisions, being a people pleaser, and procrastination. So they're all rolled into this lack of confidence, lack of self-belief, and it often shows up in the form of an imposter syndrome, and constantly looking at these characteristics and showing and these impacting your ability to make the most of your career and your opportunities. On the plus side then, so what does self-confidence look like? So a lot of people think it's this kind of external bravado, but actually you could have somebody who has that external bravado, but actually inwardly they're not self-confident. So often, people who look cocky and look confident may not necessarily be confident, and I'll talk to you about that shortly. But what it should look like is that positive mindset, actively being able to participate and speak up in meetings with confidence and with authority, not being afraid to put yourself forward for opportunities as they come up, that you kind of think, yeah, look, I can do this job, or at least I can give it a shot. I mightn't have everything that is required in the job spec, but look, I've got 6 or 7 of the key things out of 10. I'm going to put my best foot forward here. The other factor here another characteristic of self-confidence is being decisive and taking action. But also as well, and this is key, is I suppose being in a position and in a mindset and having the confidence to support and to encourage others around you. So self-confidence is a key trait of a leader, and it's somebody who wants to actively encourage and support others and celebrate their successes and not be threatened by that, but that you feel strong enough in your own capability, in your own skin, to be able to do that. And linked to that then is to be able to accept and embrace feedback, so that you're open to feedback, even if it's not what you're looking to hear, but you take it on board in a very constructive way, and that you embrace that and look at ways to improve on your skills, on your attitude, etc., based on the feedback. So it's accepting and embracing that feedback through a lens of professional development. So just to take you through then some of the benefits of improving your self-confidence, and I've mentioned this already in terms of enhanced career success, because you're much more likely to put yourself out there. You're much more likely to step up for opportunities. You're much more likely to speak up in interview or in meetings, and to make an impact and to develop a brand and a profile for yourself. You're elevating yourself as a leader, and then that helps you to motivate and to energize others around you. And if you're, I suppose, communicating with confidence, that instills confidence in the people around you, and you're going to be much better positioned to be a leader and also to embrace opportunities career-wise. And if you're feeling confident in yourself, you're going to be much more productive. You're going to perform at a higher level. So again, that can obviously have career benefits. And also it builds trust in the people around you, because they will see you as being decisive, you're composed, again, you're demonstrating those leadership characteristics. So there are lots of benefits here in terms of improving your self-confidence. So you might say to me then, Karen, so how do I do this? And that's ultimately why you're all on the webinar today, is to find out how you do this. And as I said to you earlier, there are key ways in which you can do this, and they're all very practical. There's no quick fix. I will say that to you, and it does take investment. It does take time. You will have to work on it. There will be setbacks. People's confidence gets knocked all of the time for various different reasons, but it is all about, having that ability then to dust yourself off, pick yourself up and go with it again, but obviously taking the learnings from from the situation. So firstly, if we look at how you can improve your self-confidence, it's reducing that negative self-thought talk. So we all have it. Think about it, like all those messages, even today, in terms of like what it is that you've been saying to yourself during the day, kind of, oh, kind of like, is this presentation going to go well? Am I going to make the impact that, I expect? Is there somebody else who could be doing this better than me? Have I thought of everything that I should be doing? So automatically all of these thoughts are going through our heads. So we need to be aware of what it is that our brain is automatically saying to us. And the brain, would you believe, is actually hardwired to be negative. So we need to be very mindful to make sure that those negative thoughts don't overtake the positive thoughts. And a good question to ask yourself is, would you speak to others the way you speak to yourself? So think about that. Like when you have these negative thoughts going through your head, would you say what you're saying to yourself, to your partner, to your colleagues, to your friends? It's a good sense check. And if that is the case that you wouldn't say those things, well, why are you saying it to yourself and constantly eroding and tipping away at your confidence? So we have a lot of control over our own self-confidence. But the key here is to understand what those messages are, identify identify them, stop them, and change that mindset. So what I would ask you to think about is, like, how aware are you of the messages that you're sending yourself each day? Look, we're all busy. I appreciate that. We don't have the time to be sitting around and just thinking about, well, what have I said to myself today, every time. But even if you had one checkpoint, at the end of the day where you said, so how did I treat myself today? What did I say to myself today? And even if you were to end the day with one positive thought to outstrip all of the others, that could be a major changing point, because you are then taking control of those negative thoughts. So think about that. If you did nothing else after this webinar other than, when you close your eyes to go to sleep at night, you end it with a positive thought. And over time, that builds up, and those positive thoughts start to really accumulate and build up in your mind. Another thing to think about here is like a little technique in terms of stopping how, I suppose that this negative self-talk is manifesting itself. So when you realize it's happening, mentally stop yourself and say, look, stop. I don't want to listen to this anymore. Observe, so stop and think about, well, what is it I'm saying to myself? Validate it. Is it correct? Should I be saying this? Yes or no? Or am I giving myself a hard time? Clearly, if the feedback is valid, you need to do something about it. But for the most part, in my experience, it isn't validated and it isn't relevant. So you have that opportunity to stop and observe it, question it, validate it, and then importantly, shift it, change that narrative to something more positive. So as I was saying, even that last thought at night to kind of say, gosh, Karen, didn't you do well at that presentation? You did a great job. The feedback was great. Or you got good feedback from your team or from a client, whatever it might be. End the day on a positive thought, or shift that negative thinking and that negative excuse me, negative self-thought from a negative into a positive. Look, you're not going to be able to do it overnight, but even if you manage to do it once a day, that will make a huge difference, and over time that will build up. So another way of reducing self-talk is to think about not saying things like, I can't do this, I don't deserve it, I'm not good enough, others are better than me, oh, I messed up on this before, it's going to happen again. And it's stepping into that positive mindset, that positive self-talk in terms of, I can do this, I worked hard for it, I deserve it, I have my own unique set of skills and competencies that are adding value in the role, I am confident. So it's really just changing that narrative and doing it in a very structured way. So moving on then, it's about fostering a growth and a positive mindset. So this is kind of building on the points that I've made already. So it's again thinking about, you can do it. You can try a new strategy. Okay, things mightn't have worked in the past, but you can learn from your failures and you can try something new. Being in that mindset that, look, challenges help me grow. I can learn from feedback, as I mentioned before, and you see that as a growth opportunity that, okay, look, I'm not perfect at this. I know it now, but I can do something about it. And it is a learning opportunity. Also, as well, look to be inspired by the success of others. So rather than being threatened by it, be inspired by it. Look to see what it is that's making them successful. What can you do in a similar zone? And what can you do to push yourself outside of your comfort zone? And that will then present you with learning and development opportunities and being open to those. Because if you're confident, you're much more likely to be open to learning and development opportunities. Whereas if you're not, you're going to consider, well, look, I'm not great at this anyway. No matter what I do, it's not going to make a difference anyway. I'm never going to be good at it. So it's about having that growth mindset. It's about opening yourself up to opportunities rather than steering away from challenges, feeling threatened by the success of others, or thinking, gosh, that's just too difficult. I can't do that. So it's being mindful of how you might be stuck in a fixed mindset and seeing how you can then shift over into that growth mindset and really focusing in on a couple of key things that you can do, or key things or areas that you can change in terms of your mindset where it's fixed over into a growth mindset. Thirdly, then, it's about knowing and leveraging your success bank. So when I say success bank, what I mean here specifically is your past achievements. So these could be personal achievements, they can be professional achievements. It could be that you ran the Dublin Marathon. It could be that, your team won the GAA final. On a professional side, it could be naturally, obviously, that you've qualified as a chartered accountant, you were promoted again, you've successfully closed out X number of projects, so it's really looking at what your list of personal and professional achievements are. And a way of looking at this will be thinking about, like, what am I proudest of, from a personal and a professional perspective, and think about your achievements and what they say about you. And then obviously, if you have this whole list of achievements, which I'm sure you all do, you can stop then and say, right, I'm going to take a number of specific achievements and delve into those in a little bit more detail to see what are the specific skills and competencies that I demonstrate on a day-to-day basis. So you could take, for example, the fact that you qualified as a chartered accountant. So what are the skills and competencies that you need in that space? So they're everything from the technical side through to like grit, determination, hard work, perseverance, so they are all the skills and competencies that you needed to achieve what you achieved. And then if you do that for a number of your achievements throughout your career and your personal life, you will very quickly see that there is a common thread here in terms of the skills and competencies that you demonstrate and that you have to offer. And you should write that list down, and read it and revisit it on a regular basis to remind you. If you're having a bad day, have a look at the list again. If you're not sure whether you should go for a job opportunity, look at the list again and make sure that you're keeping that list up to date as you inevitably add to your achievements as you go through your career. And if you're having a low day, look at the list to remind you, look, I have been successful. This is what I've done. This is how I've done it. These are the skills and competencies that I have that enable me to achieve this success. And we often forget about our successes. And particularly if we're going through a bit of a rough time, we can all focus in on the negative and, get, I suppose, kind of stuck in that spiral of negativity. So looking and reminding yourself of your past achievements is a really important thing to do. So I would encourage you to have a list and then to constantly update it and to check back in on that list. And that will help you to kind of boost your confidence. If it's feeling a little bit low and you need a bit of boost of confidence again, check back in with it again, but obviously making sure that you're updating it as you go along. So fourth then is to acknowledge and celebrate your successes. And I really like this saying here, which is about to talk to yourself about your successes. Be sure you're recognizing your own accomplishments, no matter how small they are. And again, look, I know this isn't easy because we're all so busy. And particularly in the professional world where the pressure is on to kind of move to the next thing, and it's kind of, you've just got that project done, or you've just met that deadline, it's move on to the next and the next and the next and the next, and it's this, I suppose, constant cycle of going from one thing to another with no opportunity to take a breath and to actually acknowledge and celebrate your successes. So I would encourage you again to take some time out, whether that's at the end of a month, a quarter, to really kind of think, well, look, what were my successes? Or even on a weekly basis to say, what were my successes this week? What am I proud of? What do I want to recognize in terms of my successes? And they don't all need to be big things. That's the thing. It could be that, look, you chaired a meeting very, very well and it all went well. It could be that you had a discussion with a team member that ended up being very constructive and very positive. It doesn't need to be big shiny projects all of the time. It is just about acknowledging and taking the time yourself to acknowledge your successes, how you got them, because this all reinforces and builds your confidence. And then let's face it, let's take the time out to celebrate your successes, because that is so important, because that's what's going to keep you motivated on to the next success, because you'll know that, look, there's an upside, there's a reward here at the end of it. I get to celebrate. It's an incentive and it's a motivator. So I would really urge you to acknowledge and celebrate your successes, because that's ultimately the fuel that will keep you going and that will drive you on and that will motivate you to keep going and to make sure that you have that determination, that energy, that motivation to keep going. And obviously it bolsters your self-confidence. If you have your self-confidence intact and it's strong, you will continue on to success. So the next point I want to touch on is stop making comparisons. And this for a lot of people, and I know this through my coaching experience and working with members and non-members to help them identify what it is that is holding them back in terms of their self-confidence. And this one often is the game changer for people, that they weren't aware of the impact that comparing yourself to others has in terms of eroding your confidence. And Theodore Roosevelt put it really well in terms of comparison is a thief of joy. So let's just think about that for a moment. So comparison is a thief of joy. And what I'm saying here is that comparison erodes confidence. So if you are constantly comparing yourself with others, it isn't a positive space to be in, because no matter what way you look at it, you're always going to find people who have a shinier, newer car than you, a nicer house, a better job, maybe better salary, or you think at least they have a better salary. So if you're constantly in that space of comparing yourself with others, it is a negative spiral. And if you can reduce that in any shape or form, it is going to have a positive impact on your mindset, and that you're not constantly in that space of, oh well, Mary would do a better job than I would in that case, or John, gosh, like he would be much better in that situation than I would be. Or such and such deserves this bet more than I do. So it's really just making sure and being more aware of when you're actually going into that space of constantly eroding yourself and your confidence. So the key thing here as well is that you need to think about this in the terms of, I suppose I put up the picture there of apples and oranges, because when you're comparing your I suppose, your internal mindset and your internal confidence with somebody else's external self, you're not making, I suppose a relevant comparison because you're not looking at the same thing. And let me give you an example of I suppose what that actually looks like. So you might be thinking, gosh, Mary looks really confident. She stormed into the meeting. She had total control of the meeting. Mary is really confident, and I'm not because I'm quaking in my boots here in the meeting. Yes, I spoke up, but like internally, I am absolutely quaking in my boots. But look at Mary, sure, didn't she? She rocked in that meeting, and like she had everything under control. But what you don't know is what's going on for Mary in her mind. So you're comparing what's going on internally for you with what's going on externally for Mary. And if you're in that space, you're not making a direct relevant comparison. They're two potentially very different things, and you could be eroding your confidence based on a false assumption, essentially. So the key thing is to think about just because somebody else looks really confident on the outside doesn't necessarily mean that they are. And you could be comparing your internal lack of self-confidence with their external, I suppose, what looks like on the face of it externally as strong confidence. So you just need to think about that and making sure that you're not making irrelevant comparisons. And I think for a lot of people, if they can get their head around that, it actually is a game changer for people, and also stopping that piece of comparing yourself constantly with others. So the next point I want to touch on is about avoiding perfectionism. And again, this too can be a game changer for people, and particularly for those within the finance profession and for accountants, where ultimately, I suppose your role is about being right. It is about having things perfect. And, I suppose the key here is to think about, when can you look at the opportunity to consider good is good enough. And for me personally, this was a game changer. And this, like, essentially, I did a master's in coaching a number of years ago, and I was working on my thesis. And I was working with the supervisor for my thesis at the time, and I was constantly changing things back and forth and back and forth. And like I had changed so much, and each time I'd read down through it and go, oh God, no, I can't change that. Looking at it, I wasn't confident enough to believe that what I had put forward was strong enough. And ultimately, my supervisor turned around to me and he said, Karen, you need to decide when good is good enough. And that really resonated with me because I could have gone around in circles, procrastinating, not making decisions, constantly changing, second guessing what I had in there, when ultimately what I needed to do was to stand back and to go, I've put in a lot of hard work here. I have to trust in my own capabilities, have confidence in my own abilities and my knowledge and the work and effort that I've put into this, and decide that good is good enough. And that was a game changer for me. And I often, I suppose, go back to this I suppose, phrase and this mantra on a regular basis to kind of say, look, Karen, is good enough in this instance? And it has made a huge difference, and it does bolster your confidence as well. It's also a massive time saving instrument as well as obviously a self-confidence booster. So it's something to ask yourself in a situation: is good enough, rather than second guessing yourself constantly. So that can be like a real game changer. I should have said earlier on actually that if you have any questions, feel free to pop those into the Q&A section. I'll leave a bit of time at the end to deal with any questions that you might have, and I'll also put up my contact details. So if you're not confident in terms of asking questions online, I'm happy to take those questions offline, and to have kind of separate conversations. So do feel free to share any questions or thoughts or feedback indeed that you might have in the either the chat or the Q&A. So the next I suppose strategy that I want to touch on in terms of building on your self-confidence is really looking at setting clear goals and objectives. Because if you have clear goals and objectives set out, you're going to be much more confident in terms of moving things forward. So this relates, I suppose, to both your personal life and your professional life, and we all know that they overlap or intersect. So it's really important that you take those into account. And by setting SMART goals, and I'm sure you've all heard of SMART goals, just through performance reviews, etc., in work. But if you are setting SMART goals that are broken down into short, medium, and long-term goals, you are much more likely to have the confidence to actually achieve those goals, to move forward with those goals, because you have clarity in terms of what it is you want to achieve, particularly if you write them down and sense check them with people to make sure that you're on the right track. Because again, you can have more confidence in terms of what it is that you want to achieve and your ability to achieve those. So setting clear goals and objectives and reviewing those on a regular basis is a key component of building your confidence. So again, I'd be encouraging you to set out your personal and professional goals, short, medium, and long term. And then let's say you set yourself a short-term goal, you achieve that goal, you acknowledge it, you celebrate it, and that obviously all then contributes towards building your confidence going forward. So all of these strategies are intertwined and one supports the other. So even by setting yourself some simple short-term or medium-term goals, writing them down, setting them out, plotting them out, can actually help you to build on your confidence going forward. So it's a very simple and easy strategy and approach to take. The other suggestion I have for you is that if you don't have a mentor, it's to find a mentor. And you will find that a lot of successful people rely on their mentors to help them to achieve their goals. They're not doing so on their own. All of the research shows, and there are some huge business successful business people who over the years have had mentors, and they will absolutely categorically acknowledge that they wouldn't have reached the successes that they've reached, or they wouldn't have had the confidence to achieve what they've achieved without the support of a mentor. And basically what the mentor is doing is they're helping you to move in the right direction based on their experience, based on their I suppose life experience and career experience, and they're working with you to support you, to guide you. They're in your, I suppose, they have your back, I suppose. They're in your camp. They're there to, take an interest in you, to give you the support that you need to elevate your confidence, to give you the support to achieve the goals that you've set out. So really it's you're I suppose, relying on their hindsight, to help you to carve out a future for yourself and to build your confidence to achieve what you want to achieve going forward. They're there to support you and to guide you. And some of the benefits of a mentor, for example, are that they motivate you to accomplish what it is you want to do. They challenge you, because they expect the best of you. So they're putting that bit of pressure on you to do your best. And they're there to support you and to guide you through it. They don't give up on you. They support you. They also, though, will tell you the truth. In other words, they'll give you constructive feedback. And as we mentioned earlier, constructive feedback is that opportunity to grow. And again, what they'll do is they'll put a bit of pressure on you, and they'll be supportive because they really care. They want you to be a success. So knowing that you have this particular mentor or mentors in your camp there supporting you as you go along will give you that confidence and reduce your doubts in terms of your, perceived, lack of ability to achieve something. If you've a mentor there supporting you and guiding you through your development, that in its own right gives you the confidence and that extra boost that you need to move things forward. And again, the research will back me up on this, that, some of the benefits of having a mentor, relate to your career. Also in terms of your ability to have a more positive mental attitude, behaviorally and motivationally, it is been shown to have benefits. It also can help in terms of your relationships with people around you on a personal and on a professional basis, and even from a health and well-being perspective, having that mentor, that supporter, that sponsor in your space to help you through can help build your self-confidence. Now, just so you are aware that the Institute does have our own mentor program. It's a free service that is available to all members. We have a panel of over 150 mentors coming from all backgrounds, walks of life. They're at different career stages. They're male, they're female. They're based in all of the 4 provinces in Ireland. They're based abroad. So if you want to action this now and want to avail of or connect with the member, we can facilitate that. The link is here in the slides, which if they haven't been shared with you already, will be shared, as will the recording. But on our website, you'll find all of the details of the mentor program, or contact me directly afterwards, and we can talk about how we can connect you with a mentor that is right for you, that will help you to build your confidence as you move your career forward. Lastly, then, what I want to touch on is, well, I suppose not quite penultimately, is the importance of managing your mental health and well-being, and that interrelationship between your mental health and your confidence. And by keeping your brain and your mind healthy, that will have an impact on your self-confidence as well, because there is a strong interplay between that. Because if you think about it, like, even if from a mental health perspective, you're not having a good day, that is going to impact your confidence. Whereas if you're feeling good about yourself in terms of from a mental health and a mood perspective, you're ultimately going to feel more confident. So it's really important that if you are, keen to develop your confidence and grow your confidence, that you are very much aware of your own mental health, your mood, etc. as well, because basically they're all interrelated, as I said. So if your mental health is impacted, your concentration levels and memory can also be affected. Your whole outlook on life can be impacted if you're in a negative mental health state. And then obviously then that will impact on your confidence, and vice versa. So it is really important that you understand the overlap and the interplay between confidence and how you're feeling from a mental health perspective, and improving one can improve the other, and vice versa. So it's really important that you're aware of that and check in with yourself too, to kind of go, well, how am I feeling today? How is my mood? How is that going to impact on my confidence, and vice versa? So again, even that awareness can be a game changer. Just so you're aware that the Institute does have wellbeing supports in the shape of Thrive. So there's a team available who provide a wellbeing hub online, which is on our website, but they also provide a confidential listening service, professional counselling and wellbeing coaching, and they also run a whole range of mental health and wellbeing webinars. So if you feel that you need support in this area, don't be afraid to reach out, because not only will it improve your mental health, it can also improve your self-confidence and ultimately help you in terms of your career development and satisfaction as well. So there are a number of supports that they have, and you'll see their supports coming out through the social media channels, e-news, the website, Accountancy Ireland. So just keep an eye out for those, because you never know, some of those supports may well be of interest and of value to you. So finally, then, I just want to take you through some of the career supports that are available to you as a member. And these are all free of charge as part of your membership. So the first is impartial careers advice and coaching. And that does include, how you can set your career goals, how you can, build your self-confidence to achieve those goals and to maximize your performance and career success. And that also includes then, I suppose, the advisory side, but also the coaching side. We can also help you in terms of salary advice and salary negotiations. And again, confidence is a key thing. If you're going in to negotiate your salary, you need to be doing that from a place of self-confidence, so we can help in that space. And similarly, we can help you with your CV and interview preparation as well. And again, going into an interview, you do want to make the right impression and obviously make an impact, so we can help you there as well. We also then have a competency map online, which can help you to look at and consider what the skills and competencies are that you need at the various different stages of your career. And this links in with what I was talking to you about in terms of the success bank, that you can go down through the competency map to identify the skills and competencies that you have at a particular stage and what you need for the next stage of your career, and build that all in then to your plans. That map can be very helpful just in terms of helping you to identify what those skills and competencies are, articulating them, and also then there are some strategies included in there as well that will advise you in relation to how you go about developing a particular competencies. We also then have a recruitment service. If you're happen to be looking for a job, reach out to us and we can put you in contact with organizations who have specifically contacted us looking to recruit chartered accountants. So just something to bear in mind if you're looking for a role either now or into the future. And last but not least, then we do also have the mentor program, as I mentioned, and a wide range of career webinars that we host on a regular basis, but also we have a range of them recorded, which are available online. So it's really over to you now, once I just kind of give a quick summary, but maybe have a think about any questions that you might have. But hopefully you have seen that, from the presentation today. So firstly, self-doubt is a very common experience, no matter the level that you're operating at, whether it's at kind of senior partner MD level right through to kind of the recently qualified members. It is an experience that as the studies show, over 70% of people experience. The starting point is to kind of understand what self-confidence is about, and hopefully you know that now, what it's about, what it looks like, the impact that it has when you do have it and when you don't. And also, I suppose, some strategies and techniques to kind of understand, where your own self-confidence is at. But the key thing to remember here, though, too, is that it is a skill and it is a competency and I suppose a sense that you can develop and strengthen and nurture with a range of tools. So it is something that you can constantly and will constantly need to work on, because there will be times where things happen where your confidence takes a knock and you'll need to work on it again. That's just the way of life, both from a personal and a professional perspective, so that we're all going to have bumps in the road. But the thing is, once you have the strategies then to work on it again, to take you back up to where you need to be, then you're in a good space. So it's really worthwhile investing the time in building your confidence, because it will, without a shadow of a doubt, enhance your career potential and satisfaction with your, I suppose, your lot, or with your role and life in general. And also to remember you're not alone. There are supports there to guide you and to help you as you go on the journey. So I just have it just going through the questions here. So one of it's a comment plus obviously looking for some advice, and I'll just read this out to you now. So it can feel that being very self-critical and perfectionistic has gotten me very far in my career. It's difficult to lower my standards despite knowing it is taking too much of my energy. Any advice? And look, I totally understand that, because, the nature of what you do is that you are, professionals. Don't get me wrong, things have to be right, and you have to be self-critical to an extent, and I suppose run the rule over things to see, are you doing a good job or not? But there is a balance to be struck, and where the I suppose kind of the challenge comes is where you're being overly critical of yourself, and that it's not justified. So that the SOS tool that I get mentioned earlier, where you sense check and validate. So you check in to see, what are you saying to yourself? You're being critical. Is it justified? Is it valid? So it's checking in and being realistic to say, is this valid or not? So I think that's the key thing there. And I'm not suggesting you lower your standards by any means. And certainly when I'm saying that good is good enough, I'm not saying compromise. Like in the scenario I gave you there, like I still got a 1-1 in my master's, but like that wouldn't have changed if I'd kept kind of like, second guessing. So it's about, that balance to be struck, and checking in with yourself to make sure that you're not being overcritical. And look, I appreciate it's not easy. Okay, so the next question then is, I'm 4 years post-qualified and in my early 30s. I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD. What are your thoughts about disclosing it to my employer, or dealing with it as an accountant going forward, as it's definitely affected my career in ways without knowing it prior to diagnosis. Also, would love to know if there are any other members of CAI with ADHD. So look, what I would say is, like, obviously that can be a challenging time for you in terms of getting that diagnosis, and it does cause a whole range of questions to go through your mind, and whether to disclose it to your employer is obviously a natural one. What I would suggest there is that you come to me and we can have a confidential discussion in relation to that. So between, getting advice from myself in a very in a highly confidential way, we can step down through the approach, and I can understand how it might have impacted your confidence, shifted your thinking, and I suppose there are a number of considerations here. So I would suggest that you reach out to me, and I'll give you my email address now. So it's Karen, KARIN .Lanigan, which is LANIGAN, at charteredaccountants.ie, and I can have a private conversation with you in relation to that, and also then talk to you about some of the supports that will be helpful for you, which includes some of the supports that I mentioned from Thrive earlier. And there are absolutely other members who have been diagnosed with ADHD. So more than happy to discuss putting you, if you are interested, in touch with other members. There were some interesting articles in Accountancy Ireland this issue as well, specifically around ADHD and neurodiversity, and you may find those interesting as well. So I would suggest that you take a look at those. So just going in here again to some of the other questions. So would you recommend a mentor to be somebody you work with in your company or outside of it? Okay, so either is absolutely fine. I think ultimately what it comes down to is, I suppose, how you feel about, I suppose working with that person. So in other words, like, that chemistry and that relationship you have with the mentor, if you feel that you are genuinely going to be supported and mentored internally, I would say that's absolutely fine. Sometimes like an external lens can be helpful as well. There's nothing to say that you can't have both, that you would have somebody internally and somebody externally. So I would say you could have either or both, but ultimately it's about how you feel about that relationship with the mentor, that you feel you have that chemistry, that connection, and that they have your best interests at heart. So I think that's it. One second now here. Okay, I have one last one, I think. Just let me have a read of this here. I feel like I've gone backwards in my career due to having kids and having to move out of the big cities. As a result, I've lost all of my confidence and see all my peers from younger days with great job titles and fantastic careers feel lost and not able to get to where I should be. I have to say thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's anonymously, but quite honestly, that is something that, quite a number of members experience, and you're not alone in that space. And that's why I suppose we run webinars like this, is to help members to kind of, I suppose, get the support that they need. So again, what I would say to you is you're not alone. Many members have that same experience and are torn between, having kids and family responsibilities, and the having a career, and then juggling the two. It erodes confidence. And I suppose, like, if you're comparing yourself then to others, and you see that they're moving forward and you're not, this is that cycle then that brings you to a place where your confidence is impacted. What I would say to you is, please reach out to me and let's have a one-to-one conversation where I can take you through more specific strategies to help you in your particular situation. And even just talking about these things really does help. So I would absolutely urge you to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to have those private and personal conversations. So all that remains for me to say now is thank you so much for joining me online. It's fantastic to see the interest in this webinar. It's been one of our more popular webinars in the careers space. So that goes to show that it is something that really is at the forefront of members' mind, and an issue for quite a number. Please contact me. As I said, it's karen.lanigan@charteredaccountants.ie for a private consultation and advice, and to see how we can help you in this space. But in the meantime, I hope the webinar has been helpful and beneficial. Thank you very much.